Remember when you ran away and I got on my knees and begged you not to leave because I'd go berserk? Well, they're coming to take me away, ha-ha, they're coming to take me away, ho-ho, hee-hee, ha-ha, to the funny farm where life is beautiful all the time, and I'll be happy to see those nice young men in their clean white coats, and they're coming to take me away, ha-ha!
Okay, welcome to our first video as the Nutty Professors. I'm Megan.
I'm Emily.
And today we're going to be talking about a very popular movie from the 80s called Pretty in Pink.
I love this woman. I love this woman, and I have to tell her. And if she laughs, she laughs.
It makes it easier to bear.
Feel any better if I asked you to the prom?
Name's Blane. He's so beautiful.
Blane? Oh, that's not a major appliance. That's not a name. You won't regret it, no. Young girls, they don't forget it.
Does he have strong lips? Strong lips.
Love is their own happiness.
It's too weird for me, you know. Maybe this shouldn't happen.
You know, maybe it doesn't happen all the time, but doesn't mean it isn't right, right?
This is not the time to get serious over some Nimrod.
He's gonna use you and then throw you away.
You're ashamed to be seen with me. You're ashamed to go out with me.
Squeeze her, don't tease her, never leave her.
You like him, he likes you. What his friends think shouldn't make any difference.
So I'm letting them know that they didn't break me.
Just don't write love songs like they used to. Oh.
We're not just going to review the movie because we've taken lots of notes today. Pages there. She's got lots of pages. But we are going to break down why this movie, in essence, doesn't quite work as a love story. The character of Andy kind of falls apart, and why really Steff, played by James Spader, is the most interesting character in this movie.
According to her, I'm a Ducky fan, Steff fan.
Nobody likes Blane.
Nobody likes Blane. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody likes Blane.
Okay, so we should probably do a brief summary of this movie if you've never seen it, right? But also there will be spoilers, so if you haven't seen it, I would not recommend watching this
I
video
would say
yet.
go watch the movie and then come back and watch it.
And come back. Yes.
We'll be waiting for you.
Okay. Pretty in Pink is, in essence, about an outsider in high school named Andy, who's a girl, and played by Molly Ringwald, and she's caught the eye of three of our main male characters in the movie. Yes. And so the story's basically about kind of her coming of age, and realizing she needs love like everyone else, except she picks the wrong path to love.
Essentially,
at the end of the movie.
This woman is poor. She's poor. Her father
John
works
Hughes
part-time
version
jobs,
of
but
poor.
guess what? Adjuncts are part-time instructors. Mm-hmm. It's still a full-time job. And they have a house. They have a great house. They have a dog.
Mm-hmm.
She doesn't go hungry. She doesn't go without clothing. She has to make most of her own clothing. Mm-hmm. She's a terrible, terrible clothes maker. She has no fashion sense whatsoever.
She has bad fashion sense for the 80s.
Yes. This is not like banging on the 80s. This is saying she had terrible taste.
Yes. We grew up in the 80s. We remember the 80s.
Yes.
Even for the 80s. Oof.
And when you see the movie, you will probably agree.
We're
going to
show
you that you're going to agree.
We're going to show you as we talk some of the outfits from the movie.
Yes.
Prepare yourself.
Yes. Yeah. And then essentially there's supposed to be this, she's a good guy. The rich people are bad guys. They all pick on her. Poor me, woe is me. She's had it such a hard life. And her best friend, who is a dude, is in love with her. And gosh, what am I going to do
It's
about
very
that?
Dawson's Creek.
Yes, but at the same time, she's not a likable character. There's no sympathy for her whatsoever. And she has, and I don't know if it's Molly Ringwald's acting, which we have discussed,
Yes.
or if it's just the character was written terribly, but there's no sympathy for her. She's abusive. She's mean. She's bitchy. She is called a bitch by our bad guy. And we're all like, yeah, she is a bitch.
Which, I mean,
I would call her a bitch too if she treated me like that.
You know, you're supposed to react like, oh, I can't believe he said that about her. Because she was being a bitch.
Being a bitch. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And
some of this might be blasphemous for, you know, those 80s lovers, cinephiles who, like, you know, everything Molly Ringwald did was fried gold, but no. If you don't agree with what we're saying during this review, go back and watch the movie again. Okay?
And then after you're done watching it with open mind,
without your nostalgia goggles,
then comment below here and say what you think. If you still think that we're completely wrong, that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
Megan will read your comments and she'll say something. She's good.
I will. Be nice though.
She teaches rhetoric, so she knows how to have a nice conversation.
Mm-hmm. I do. So,
yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, let's
begin.
Let's get started here. Okay. So the beginning of the movie, we are introduced to Andy's house and just basically where she's grown up, you know, kind of her background. And this is kind of the first problem of this movie is you have John Hughes, John Hughes' version of what a really poor person's house would look like. And if you know anything about John Hughes, he actually did grow up in the suburbs of Chicago,
which is where all of his movies take place.
In a wealthy area, yeah. And so you kind of notice that trend in his movies.
Ferris Bueller's Day Off, Breakfast Club,
yeah. Well, as whereas
16 Candles.
In his movies, you know, these kind of working class families or middle class are supposed to live. They live in pretty big houses.
Yes.
Home Alone, for instance. That is a huge house.
Huge.
Huge. Right? So we see Andy's home, and
it looks like a normal person's home.
It's a normal home.
I mean, it's not.
It has a very nice
Great Lakes, but
yeah. I mean, for these people are supposed to be very poor, and the dad, played by Harry Dean Stanton, is supposed to be out of work, and he's become
kind of a sad
mess.
Yes.
The lawn is immaculate.
He must do something while she's at school all day.
Right?
She also works at a record store.
Yeah. She has a job, and
the other
she has a car.
Character that's very interesting is her boss.
Yes.
Very interesting boss.
Okay. So yeah, I would say that's the first thing is,
well, how does a guy who doesn't work a steady job own a house?
Own this house. And I would imagine when people watch this movie at the time and, you know, they keep driving it home, she's so poor. She's so poor. She doesn't want anyone to see where she lives. I imagine that was probably hurtful for a lot of the audience who lived in homes like that, thinking, oh, well, geez, maybe I should be embarrassed of the house I live in. Perhaps I found that problematic.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
But all we know, of course, from this opening scene is that it's just Andy and her dad
and
their dog living there. We're not sure what happened to the mom at this point, and dad is unemployed at the moment.
Yeah.
Okay.
The second thing we learn about Andy is that she is a terrible dresser.
Yes.
That she has absolutely no fashion sense. And I'm not saying that people who have red hair shouldn't wear pink. I know many redheads who wear pink and they look beautiful. This redhead does not look beautiful in pink.
Not with her shade of red in this movie.
I don't understand how she was cast as the lead actress in this role, Pretty in Pink, knowing that the person in this role would need to wear pink. That's like implied in the title.
Well, I do think it's the actual hair color, because 1 year earlier in The Breakfast Club,
she was wearing pink and she
was wearing pink and looked fine because her hair was a darker red. So I think this particular shade looks terrible with all the pink that she's wearing in the movie.
Yes. And she wears these hideous floral patterns. It's essentially you go into your grandmother's house and you tear off her wallpaper, very Scarlett O'Hara-esque, and make yourself a dress out of it.
Yeah. Pretty much in the first scenes of this movie when she goes to school, she's dressed like a grandma bag lady.
Yes, she looks like a grandma bag lady. Mm. And when a very attractive guy approaches her and tells her he's had a crush on her for 4 years. Yes. You get the feeling he's asked her out several times before this. Mm-hmm. And she just treats him like shit.
Okay.
She is so mean to him. And then he calls her a bitch. And we're supposed to feel sorry for her.
Yes. So who she's talking about is the character of Steff, played by James Spader. If you don't know who that actor is, like his most current work is Blacklist. But he's been really in anymore. Hollywood. Well, I mean, he's old. He's been around for a very long time, and he's a fantastic actor. So if you've never seen any of his earlier stuff,
he's basically Gary Oldman. If you like Gary Oldman, the guy who plays Sirius, he's like the American version of Gary Oldman.
He every role he's in, he's very different.
And they do his makeup, and suddenly he's a different human being. Very good actor, very subtle.
So he's the character of Steff, and he's supposed to be the quintessential rich douchebag in this movie. And I don't know if that's all the script required, that's all it gave him, or if there was, more direction from John Hughes. But James Spader gives depth to this character that really didn't need it. And so that's why...
He could have been a very easy, clear villain that you hate.
We were saying the equivalent of this character is in another John Hughes movie, John Hughes written movie, but not directed, called Some Kind of Wonderful. And in that movie, Craig Schaefer plays a very similar character, pretty much the same character.
But actually,
yes, but very one-dimensional, very evil. And if you watch those two movies side by side, you will see the difference in what James Spader does with his character versus what Craig Schaefer does with his. And so that's why I think James Spader's version of this character is much more interesting. So as Emily said, when we're first introduced to his character, he's hanging out with his rich, snobby friends. But
Steff is hanging out with
Steff is. And he immediately gets out of his car when he sees
waiting
Andy.
For her.
He's waiting
you
for
can
her.
tell he's waiting for her.
Yes. And he goes over to ask her out. And he straight up tells her, I've liked you for 4 years. How many high school guys are going to admit to that?
I've liked you since I was a freshman.
Right? And she immediately is mean and straight up says, I have better taste than that. Okay? And that's when he gets mean.
And he
is not mean before then.
He does have the streak in him to be mean when he's been hurt. He is not good at being hurt.
Yes. He's like Kylo Ren.
He is. He doesn't like slash shit up when he gets angry.
Yeah.
But he slashes up people's feelings when they get angry.
Right?
He gets very mean.
He gets very mean, which is what he does. He calls her a bitch. But then again, she was being a bitch to him. Okay.
Yes.
But that's important.
This is so Steff, just to kind of segue into this, he is the best friend of the other guy who likes Andy. And she likes that guy back. One of the things that we are told to believe in this movie is that Blane doesn't know until the very end of this movie that Steff had a thing for Andy.
Yes.
That he didn't know. Which is impossible because Steff does not hide his feelings about this girl.
Again, straight up in front of his friends telling her he's liked her for 4 years. Seems like everybody would probably know that Steff had a thing for Andy.
His best friend should know that he has a thing for her.
So either Blaine's a big fat liar or he's completely self-absorbed.
I vote for that one. All the characters in this movie are completely
very self-absorbed. Except Ducky.
And Iona.
Yes.
The boss of Andy's boss.
So Blane, of course, played by Andrew McCarthy, who's another very good actor who gives more to this character than probably what was written for him in the script. Okay. And that's important.
Yeah.
Once we get to Molly Ringwald casting. Okay. what's next? So then we're introduced to Ducky. Okay.
Played by Jon Cryer.
Yes. Who the part was written for Robert Downey Jr., who I cannot remember why he couldn't.
I don't know if it was
in it.
written
Well, that's who
for
John
him,
Hughes
but that's who
had
John,
in mind.
Yes.
Because John Hughes apparently wrote the script in like 2 days or something, and he had in mind Robert Downey Jr., right? He had Robert Downey Jr. in mind. And you can see that this character was written for someone of Robert Downey Jr.'s talents.
But at the same time, we had discussed, Jon Cryer is adorable in this. And he is sweet, and he's vulnerable, and he gives just a 5-star performance out of 5 stars.
Yes.
And I don't feel like Robert Downey Jr. would have shown that level of vulnerability.
No.
He doesn't have the sweetness that was necessary for Ducky, because he's in love with her. They've been friends, we have presumed, since childhood, and he's been in love with her this whole time, and he's had to watch her really not do anything. She doesn't do anything.
She doesn't. I compared her to Fanny Price from Mansfield Park, not a must read of Jane Austen like Pride and Prejudice is. I actually don't know more than maybe 3 people who have read the book. But if you have read the book, you know what I'm talking about, right? No, I know you read it. Yeah.
I'm one of the 3.
Yeah. But if you have read the book, you know that Fanny Price is a very unlikable character because she's so pious and self-righteous. And yes. And I mean, I don't even know what Jane Austen was thinking with this character, because the next book was Emma, who's the total opposite of Fanny Price. But I thought of that when I was watching the movie, because Andy is very pious and self-righteous, and she's a fun killer.
But something that I've been talking about with a lot of people recently is that very unhappy, traumatized people tend to be very superior and very judgmental.
Yes.
Because it's how they gain their power. It's how they feel superior to the situation, because they don't actually have any real power. So I can and her mother left. We find out that her mother left her and her father. And it was years ago, one presumes, and the father still hasn't gotten over it, and that's why he's kind of a waster. And I think, but I mean, that's trauma. That's fine. People are allowed to be who they are, but why are so many people in love with this woman who has absolutely nothing interesting about her except her horrible fashion sense?
Thus the problem, the innate problem with this movie is the Andy character. She's not charming, not friendly, not charismatic in any way. And so we wondered, is the problem with Molly Ringwald's performance, or is it the problem with the character itself? Because we were saying maybe someone like Ali Sheedy would have played the character much better, whereas you understood why all these guys are interested in her.
Like, we were talking about Something About Mary. I had never seen a movie until Something About Mary where I was like, oh my God, I totally get why all these dudes are in love with this girl. We also were talking about 10 Things I Hate About You, where Patrick says, what does this girl have, beer-flavored nipples?
Right?
And
why is everyone in love with
Bianca? Why is everybody in love with Bianca?
Yeah.
And it's the same thing. Why is everybody in love with Andy? There's nothing interesting or compelling about her whatsoever. And
other than she's just different.
And snotty.
Yes. When you see her interact in the school scenes, it's clear she has, 2 friends?
She has 2 friends, Ducky and
Jeannie.
Jeannie, okay.
Right? She barely interacts with Jeannie. I think Jeannie's in, 2 or 3 scenes.
She's in the gym.
And she seems almost annoyed by Jeannie anyway.
And annoyed by Ducky, and annoyed by every single person on the planet. Yeah. Nobody is good enough for her.
We should probably get to their date, because that is very telling. Sorry.
Don't say the word date. Sipping my thing. It's like the worst, god-awful date in the history of
course,
dates.
Again, very telling of her character. That's why I always wondered if Blane knew that stuff like Andy, and that's what put her on his radar.
There must have been, whether it was subconscious or not, he definitely behaves as if he's aware of this issue.
Well, because it's very clear that it's not till after Steff asks her out that suddenly Blane is in her, environment or whatever, and it's clear that they haven't interacted before then.
Nope.
Okay. So I that's a theory, is he knew, which comes into play later on.
Yep.
Right? But I think personally that Molly Ringwald was a very limited actress, and she didn't have what it took to give the character of Andy more depth and nuance, like what she really needed in order to pull off this character.
I agree. We have so many theories about this movie, and one of the ones is Andy really bullied, or does she bully others? Because she's not very nice.
So what the movie wants you to believe is, again, rich kids, assholes, with the exception of Blane.
Which he's an asshole,
right?
too.
And then poor kids, good kids. That's not at all what we see in this movie. The poor kids, the punk kids, they're just as big a dicks as the rich kids are. And what we don't see is this blatant bullying of Andy, where she has to constantly defend herself and blah, 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 because she makes this speech kind of the midpoint of the movie to the principal about how she's treated and she knows her place at the school and all this nonsense, but we never saw that.
There's one time that she gets bullied, and that is, they tell her outfit is hideous.
Yeah,
and her outfit is hideous.
I mean, yes. You don't want to tell someone that.
But these are bitchy high schoolers. All of them act like high schoolers. And so therefore high schoolers are going to be assholes to each other. At the same time, that's not bullying. That's not one person picking on another. That's just high schoolers being jerks. That's just
Benny being a bitch.
And then Andy's friend, Jeannie, during PE class, tells one of the popular kids that she hopes that her tits shrivel up and fall off.
Yeah.
And she gets in trouble for it. And after she gets in trouble for it, she leaves the classroom, presumably to go to the principal's office. And Andy goes, and the principal, or the PE teacher says, "Do you have anything to say to Andy?" And she's like, "No, I'm fine." And then the popular girl tells her to eat shit. And so she raises her hand, and we have no idea what she says.
We don't.
We have no idea what she says.
That's the editing of this movie. We don't know what she said to end up in the principal's office.
No.
Okay? So what we have is her friend started it, then Benny said eat shit, and then we don't know what Andy says.
And then she's treated like a victim. There. And then, so let's talk about the date. So Blane asks Andy out. Let's just skip forward to that.
So Blane, unlike Steff, who's just straight up, "I've liked you for 4 years," Blane has to pussyfoot around the whole thing for several scenes before he finally gets the courage to ask Andy out. And he also has to, of course, sneak off to ask her out on the, I don't want to say playground because it's high school, but kind of this like atrium, outside atrium
it's almost
area,
like the smoker's box,
where all the kind of like reject kids or whatever.
All the people would go to the smoker. No, I'm just kidding.
Right?
That's not nice.
So, but I mean, it's clear like he's kind of sneaking away from his rich posse to go ask her out. So what's the first mistake he does? He's late to that date.
He's late.
And
they think for a second that he stood her up, and she starts crying and she's upset about it.
Yeah. Here's the problem though. Was there a scene in between where they actually talk about when he's going to show up? Because I don't think they talk about a time.
No.
Okay, so problem with editing. So anyway, I think anyway, and I think Emily agrees, Steff would have showed up on time.
And he would have brought flowers.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, he shows up late. So like, to me, that's red flag 1. He's the one that asked you out, and he's going to show up late?
Yeah. Not cool.
It's already a bad sign.
Yep.
Already a bad sign. Then they go to Steff's house. Okay.
For a party.
Again, I believe that Blane knew Steff liked Andy. So why is he bringing her to Steff's party?
And why is he bringing her to Steff's party anyway? Mm-hmm. Why doesn't he take her out to dinner? He's a rich kid. Well, he can afford to take her out to dinner.
Yeah. Well, and it's obvious, like, Andy misread the kind of date they were going to go on. So she's very dressed up. And I said she looked like a mom going to like
a PTA meeting. Yes.
Or a nice luncheon.
Yes.
She does. She looks...
Ladies who
like
lunch.
Her outfit is something my mom would have worn
Yes.
in the 80s. Yes. Love you, Mom.
Yes.
Anyway, so like she clearly thought they were going somewhere nice. Why couldn't he just take her somewhere nice?
It's like he put no thought into the date whatsoever.
Yes. Instead of saying
Steff would have put thought into the date.
Instead of like reading the situation, taking her somewhere nice, he tells her, does she want to go home and change?
Which, again, making a comment on her clothing choices.
Right? So, our theory, that boy just wanted booty.
Yes. And I think, you take how shallow their relationship is. What we're about to tell you about is the worst date in history. And then suddenly he wants to go to prom with her. And then suddenly they're in the most fraught and angsty relationship ever. And I don't understand how you get from 0 to 10 unless there's sex involved.
Mm-hmm.
It's the only way that you get from 0 to 10, unless you've known each other for a while, but that's not 0 to 10. So never mind. That's it.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
Yeah, it's possible she is just a conquest. We don't know anything about Blane. Blane could have been a big old player, and he's just like made the rotation through all his female friends. I think he had something with Benny.
Oh.
Right? Because there's bit of animosity between those two at Steff's party.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Okay, so they get to this party. These kids are having fun. There's a couple of kids in the corner dancing in their underwear, right? Looks like a good time to me.
Right?
I have been to those parties in my life.
But Andy doesn't know how to have fun. She can't have fun. Fun isn't a word that she's familiar with.
Andy comes in with a puss face, right? Like, okay, what do you do if you go to a party, you don't really know anyone, it's super awkward? You get a beer, right? You go get a drink and chill. Andy is so uptight.
Yes, she
right?
is. And she's judgmental. She's just judging all these people.
She's just looking at everyone like,
and Blane asks her what's
partying.
wrong. And he's like, he's trying to explain his friends to her in this sheepish way, like there's something wrong with it. And I'm like, there's nothing wrong with him.
It's a party.
It's wrong with you.
It's a party.
You know?
Yeah.
Yes.
I think if she had just like come in, gotten a drink, maybe tried to chat with
Cameron
people.
Diaz and something about Mary, she would have gone in, gotten a beer, and just chilled.
Yeah. I don't think, like, people are probably so drunk, I don't think they really cared. But because she came in with that puss face, that judgmental face, that's when people started looking at her like, well, what is she doing here? Because clearly she was eye-judging everyone.
She was eye-judging them. And then he asks her if she wants to go upstairs. And this prompts probably one of my few proud moments of her, where she says, fuck you.
Yeah.
I'm not here just to get you off, bastard. And then he pulls it off like he wasn't actually asking for that, when you know that's what he was asking for. Because I don't know if you've ever been out on a date before. It's super awkward and you didn't know what else to do, so you had sex.
Yep. Yep.
Sorry.
Maybe.
Sorry, my mom.
Maybe that was his diabolical plan. He wanted things to be
to make her
so
so
bad
awkward.
and so awkward. It's like, the only thing we could do is at this point. Ooh, Blane, you little minx, you. We took this movie to a whole other level of shadiness. Okay?
So Blane
again,
continues.
Steff is supposed to be the bad guy?
Right. Blane continues to pull off like he didn't want to have sex with her, so he takes her upstairs. And he takes her directly to Steff's bedroom!
Okay, again.
They move around the entire house and don't see his friend.
Steff anywhere. Where's
he going to be? He's going to be upstairs having sex with Benny. Of course.
Yes.
But they're going to walk directly into his room. Why did they do that?
Why?
Why? Other than to shove it into Steff's face. Look at here, I'm with her,
I got
you're
the
not.
girl, right? Because Blane is evil.
And then Steff goes on to be a very humane person. He tells Benny to shut her trap when she's being a bitch to Andy.
He's quite polite. I mean, given the fact that his best friend just walked into his bedroom
with the girl
willy-nilly,
like
stealing a whole bag of chips and a whole case of beer, or like whatever, how much beer he stole, right? Just walks in, with the girl that he just asked out like the day earlier or whatever, okay? He's quite nice about it. I don't think I would have been
No.
that nice about someone just barging into my bedroom, right? Yeah. And even after, like, they didn't even have the decency to, like, rush back out, because clearly he was post-coitus.
Yes. He is wearing a robe, and his girl comes out with the
clear he had
shirt
just
on.
banged a girl. Okay?
Yes.
They don't even have the no, they have to, like, linger and be all awkward and shit, because devious.
And he wants Benny to see people having sex and enjoying it, and maybe that'll loosen her up. Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. But yeah,
he doesn't understand
Steff
women very
well. Very diplomatic of the whole thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then
he keeps trying to diffuse the situation.
He leaves his own bedroom. He leaves his own bedroom to get out of their way.
Yeah.
Which I'm sorry, I wouldn't want to have sex on those sheets.
He's supposed to be the bad guy.
Yes. Which he does try to diffuse the situation between Benny and Andy.
Yes.
Which, by the way, male names. Why are all these male names?
Yeah. I don't know.
Yes.
Right?
Benny and Andy.
But of course, Benny is supposed to come off as the bitch in this scenario.
She really is.
She is a bitch. But again, Andy's also a bitch.
Yes.
And Andy's just sitting there staring at them like, okay, you're Andy. You've walked into this room of this guy that you just like flat turned down like a day or two earlier, whatever, right? And he's clearly just had sex with this girl you don't get along with at school. Do you A, flee the room, B, awkwardly like make excuses and then, get yourself out of that situation, or C, sit down on the couch and awkwardly stare at these two people?
Okay, so I have a new theory that is just emerging.
Oh, okay.
Andy was angry at Steff because he had just asked her out and he just had sex with another girl because Andy's a prude and doesn't understand that he doesn't actually care about Benny and that he's just hanging out with her because he wants to have sex with her.
Good.
Yep.
Good.
Yeah.
Like it.
And she's just sitting there glaring. And I don't know. I would be A. I would just be like, whoop, whoop.
Yes, I would A. I mean, I wouldn't even say anything. I'd be like, I'm out.
Bye. Yep, there's another bedroom
right?
over here
And
somewhere.
Why was Blane not leaving too? Why is he leaving?
Well, he's the first one who went into the bedroom. Andy didn't lead them into the bedroom. He did. And then they decide to go to hang out with Andy's friends. They haven't learned enough from this scenario that his friends are kind of dicks. That, know, it's time to go and hang out with Andy's friends at this club.
Yeah.
And prior to this date, after Ducky finds out that Andy is going on a date with Blane, he gets very angry because he actually is bullied. We actually see a scene where Blane and Steff's friends are shoving Ducky into the girls' bathroom.
Let's clarify, he's not being bullied by either Blane or Steff.
No.
It's
just other
unnamed
people.
other guys in the movie.
But at the same time, Ducky reacts very badly to Andy going out with this guy because he associates Blane with the people who've been bullying him, rightly or understandably so.
Very insensitive of her.
And she didn't even tell him about it. She's treating him like he's an idiot because he doesn't understand that she's been stood up on a date. And she never told him, I'm going out on a date with this guy. And just shanghais him.
She's supposed to be his best friend.
Yes. If I was going out on a date with somebody who associated themselves with people who picked on my best friend, which, by the way, I wouldn't do. But if I did, I would be like, best friend, I'm wanting to do this thing. Can you please give me your input on this? I really want to do this. Can you give me your blessing? In private, not with other people around. You don't want to embarrass anybody. And so, anyway, Ducky's at this club with the record store owner, Iona, who's just fantastic. And she's really great
Annie
clothes.
Potts.
Annie Potts, yes.
Yes. You just want her to be your friend, too.
Yes, you
she's
do.
Awesome.
Or my mom, or anybody.
Older sister.
And, exactly. And Ducky proceeds to be very, very mean to Blane, and so do some of the other goers at the club because he looks like a swell, and he is a swell, and he's there in a place with a bunch of punk rockers.
I don't think I could take anyone seriously either who never wears socks.
No, nobody. It's like Don Johnson.
It is. It's like Miami
all
Vice
of these people.
With the no socks and the loafers.
Yes. Or
can you
a little bit more
bad
contemporary. Watch The Wedding Singer.
Yes. How much their feet probably smell at the end of the day.
Right. And then, so Andy tells Ducky to cool down. I'm like, why did you bring Blane here anyway?
Yeah.
And Ducky, I think he's too young to get in the club, but he's in there anyway, so she had no way of knowing. But as soon as she saw that he was there, she should have left. So,
what, is there no other place to
go
go in this town?
Why can't they go out to eat? And by the end, so after all this happens, Andy gets all uptight about Blane taking her home and doesn't want him taking her home because she doesn't want him to see where she lives. And I'm like, what's wrong with where you live?
There's nothing wrong with
where you live. And he asks her if they want to go food, blah, blah, blah. So he takes her back home. And then they kiss. Which I'm like, you just had the worst date in history.
Yes.
How is that an aphrodisiac? Ever.
Yeah.
Ever.
At no time in this date do we see sparks flying.
No, they have no chemistry whatsoever. None. And so they kiss, very juicy, sloppy kiss. And
yeah, we agreed Andrew McCarthy doesn't look like a very good kisser. Right? But anyway, according to Molly Ringwald, Andrew McCarthy was like drunk most of the filming of this movie, so that might have had something to do with his bad kissing.
At any rate, they kiss, and then he asks her to prom. And I'm
They've been on
if you look at the logical progression of this
bad
movie,
date.
everything that they do that brings them closer has to do with sex, and everything that they do that tears them apart has to do with sex. There's nothing to do with anything else.
Yeah.
And so after this terrible date, she gets asked to prom. Yay. She goes home, tells her dad, heartfelt moment. And then next we see Blane and Steff talking. Mm-hmm. And Steff is being a dick. At this point, he's being a dick. But he's very, very hurt and very
like, not only did she turn
jealous,
him down and treat him like shit,
she's going with his best friend.
Dating his best friend. Like, dude, that's cold.
It's cold. Yes.
Really?
And then Steff tells him that he's nothing, that he's putting his friendship in jeopardy. And with reading between the lines, you hear, you're dating the girl I like, you're putting our friendship in jeopardy.
Yes.
And so
and
then,
I think you knew.
But then that's not when Blane starts acting like a dick. He takes Andy to their stables, and presumably they have sex.
Yeah, we're assuming sex was involved.
Yes.
They're surrounded by hay. They're on the floor. There's a blanket behind them. What else can we?
And what else do they have in common? They have nothing in common.
Nothing in common.
And they have no chemistry. They have nothing going on. What else can you do but have sex?
They're gonna have sex.
Of course.
So
it's after that scene that he stops calling her.
Yes. After he got the sex.
Yes.
No more calling.
Yes. And so she finally corners him at the high school.
Mm-hmm.
Proceed. I want you to explain this part.
Okay. So, prior to her cornering him, there is this very intriguing, I would say probably one of the most interesting scenes in this movie of her walking into school, okay? And she happens to pass by Steff. And he gives her this really interesting look. And I think it can be interpreted many ways.
But at the same time, there's furrow brow.
Yes.
There's
but yeah,
kind of a wincing kind of a thing.
Yeah, if you're under the impression that everything Steff does is because he's hurt by the whole thing, then what I got from this scene is he truly feels badly for what's about to happen because he knows Blane is about to reject her. And that's what I got from the scene. And it's like not even 10 seconds.
But at the same time, after he gives her this kind of heartbelt look, she glares at him.
She gives him, yeah.
And then he kind of gives her this fine bitch look.
Yeah. And I'm not even that though. It's
not what, who are you? Who are you?
Seriously, he's like, seriously? You're still mad at me. I haven't even done anything to you other than call you a bitch because you were being a bitch. Like, I'm not the one that's doing things to you. Why are you still mad at me?
Mm-hmm.
That's what I got. And it's all this in like a 7-second scene. I'm going to say 7 seconds.
But you look at the talent of James Spader that he can put so much subtlety,
nuance
into it. Because I will admit, when I first saw this movie in, I would presume, early 90s, I was like 12 or something, I thought Steff was an asshole. Mm-hmm. That's the way I interpreted it, because I was feeling my feelings from the terms of Andy.
Yeah.
But now that I understand more about Andy and don't really like her, I start to turn to other segments of the movie and different actors and go, who can I actually empathize with? I can't actually empathize with anybody except Ducky.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, we proceed into the high school.
So Andy goes into school and she runs into Blane, who she hasn't been able to get a hold of.
She doesn't run into him. She's waiting for him outside of class because he's avoiding her.
Yeah. So apparently she's been calling, leaving messages. He hasn't called her back. Okay. We know Blane's avoiding her because Blane's been getting pressure like from everyone to dump her. So then we proceed to have this confrontational scene where Andy's just trying to get him to admit that he's dumping her because she's poor, whatever. It would have been a good scene had they not directed it the way it was, where Andy's basically beating Blane up, okay? She's physically assaulting him. She throws him into the locker. She's
hitting him.
She keeps hitting him over and over in his arms, pushing him. And, again, would that have been played with a more nuanced actress? I don't know. But what happens is you end up feeling sorry for Blane, not Andy. She just comes off as a mentally unstable abuser. Mm-hmm. Right? Again, these two have been on, 2 dates that we've seen?
And they've
one bad date,
one had sex date.
So they had
which
sex.
means that she probably lost her virginity to him. So I would see some of that anger. She's very hurt, but at the same time, it doesn't make her sympathetic to make her hit him.
You can wait till after school, too, to, confront someone. And I just don't think there's ever an excuse to physically assault someone.
And Blane, this is where you feel kind of sorry for him because he wants to explain to her, you can see in his face, he wants to explain to her what's going on. That his friend's giving him pressure, not because she's poor, not because she's weird, but because he's threatening their friendship, and that's why he wants to break up with her. This movie has very little to do with class. She's the only one who cares about class.
Yes.
Whereas everybody else is just kind of like, who cares? Whatever. So,
let's get to the prom. Okay. First of all, Andy's decided she's going to give everyone a big, fuck you and show up at the prom. And apparently this is the kind of prom where only the rich kids show up. I've never heard of that. And I'm just going to assume. No, I'm not going to assume. I'm going to infer that it's not all rich kids at this prom. It's just what Andy thinks in her mind. Because in her mind, everyone's against her at this school except for Ducky and Jeannie. Okay, so I'm thinking probably nobody at this prom gives a shit if she shows up or not because nobody cares.
I would say that this is the same secret for every teenager, is that every teenager thinks that everybody's always watching them and always caring about them and always thinking about them and always against them. Whereas in real life, nobody cares.
Yeah,
nobody cares.
Nobody cares. They're worried about having a good time and looking good for the cameras and getting laid and that kind of thing. Nobody's worried if Andy's going to show up to the prom.
In this ugly ass dress that she designed and made herself.
Okay, so I don't know if you can see this here. Okay, right here. Ugliest dress ever.
The ugliest dress
even
ever.
By 80s standards.
When I was
I think
10 or 12, whenever I saw this movie, I was really disappointed. I think I might have even cried a little.
I think everybody was disappointed.
Because I was really looking forward to the dress she was going to make.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
she shows up. There's a confrontation between Blane and Steff. Oh, Steff, you're only mad because you like her. And Steff's like, whatever. And it's like, you knew he liked her. You knew. And how can you be his friend and not know this?
And Blaine's like,
she thinks you're shit.
She thinks
deep
you're
down,
shit.
you know it's true.
Yeah, and I'm like, you're shit too, Blane.
Right?
What the fuck are you talking about?
Right? Everybody in this movie is unlikable.
Yes.
And then Ducky...
Oh, by the way, as this whole scene's going on, there is like a 20-minute version
of
If You Leave by Orchestral Maneuvers in the Dark. It's hilarious. Like, is this the only song they're playing at the prom? And they just keep playing on a loop.
But, so, Ducky shows up after being treated horribly by Andy with no apology. He is witness to Andy beating Blane up, so that kind of soothes some wounds, I guess, even though they
like,
never
she's okay
talk.
now 'cause she
She's
beat up
okay,
Blane.
yes. And so he shows up, he takes her inside, and they're going to play around, and then Blane sees her, and they make Blane kisses her and then leaves. He says, "Oh God, the most annoying line in TV history. I believed in you, but you just didn't believe in me." And I'm like, what? You guys don't even know each other.
Yeah, no, that was like tacked on
Yes.
the last minute.
And I'm like, that's
because
so high school bullshit
Yes.
drama. This whole movie's about high
Yes.
school bullshit drama. But
Yeah.
Ducky, my
and
heart, he ends up with Buffy the Vampire
Christy
Slayer.
Swanson, much
Buffy
better
the Vampire
option.
Slayer.
Buffy.
She could totally kick anyone who was going to bully his ass.
Yes. Right?
Yeah.
But again, everybody knows now that this was the alternate version to the movie. There was an original version where she ends up with Ducky, and
that's
apparently
why they
test
made
audiences
Some Time of Wonderful was so that John Hughes could get his vision.
could fix it. Yeah, because test audiences in the 80s hated that ending. They thought she should have ended up with Blane. So that just goes with my theory that everybody was on cocaine in the 80s and didn't know what the hell was happening. Okay? Because why, after you watch this movie, would you think she should end up with Blane?
Who she doesn't know or have any affection with or chemistry with. And then they go on to have the most awkward kiss in movie history.
It's sloppy.
It's even more awkward than Richard Gere and Jodie.
Yeah, that was pretty bad too. Yeah, but, you know, if you watch it again, I'm telling you, without your 80s nostalgia glasses, okay, you will see why Blane is a horrible love interest that she should not have ended up with. Okay, Ducky aside, because Ducky gets Buffy, and we're cool with that, okay?
Yep.
Steff would have still been a better option than Blane.
Ducky's the lucky one.
Ducky was lucky. That's going down there. Ducky was lucky. Okay? So, yeah, these two definitely do not last. Okay.
Yeah.
So, here's
But Ducky ends up marrying Buffy and they live happily ever after.
my further along ending. Okay? Andy gets the stick out of her butt. Okay? She goes off to college, learns how to relax, have fun, date a few people. And I think that later on, she actually beats a more grown-up Steff. And he's matured, okay?
And stop being petty and jealous.
Stop being petty. Like, he's grown up. He's gotten away from his snobby life, his parents and that kind of thing, and just trying to do his own thing. And, then I think they connect. Okay. That's my version. That's my happier version later, because let's face it, other than that, we know Andy and Blane are not going to last.
No, I didn't even think they'll last a week.
No, they won't.
No. But they're prom. Prom is at the very end of senior year, right? In the 80s. So they're done.
They're done.
They'll have a good weekend.
They're going off to 2 different colleges.
They'll have a good weekend,
right?
And that'll be it.
I just think, Steff is going to end up at her college.
This is doing a panty raid.
That's how they meet up.
Those are mine!
Hey, Andy! And she's like, I'm sorry for being such a bitch to you in high school. And he's like, I'm sorry for being a douche. Can I get you a drink? Go get a beer at the local pizzeria. And that's Pretty in Pink Part 2, Steff's Return.
Oh my god.
I want to see that movie.
Tea's cold. Let's say goodbye.
Right. Oh, okay. The tea got cold. That's always our cue to end our conversation.
When you can see the TARDIS.
Right, when the TARDIS returns. When Doctor Who returns, it's time to end. So we hope you enjoyed this review of a beloved 80s movie, which we
have just destroyed.
Completely deconstructed. Not to say it's a terrible movie.
It's a terrible movie. I say it's a terrible movie.
I'm not going to say it's terrible. I think there are good things in it. James Spader. Ducky.
Iona.
Yeah, Iona.
Which you'll have to.
Right. Really good performances. Other than I really think Molly Ringwald was not bringing her A game, or she just didn't get the character, or it just wasn't translating why anybody would chase this girl.
Right.
I don't know. Right. So anyway, we look forward to coming back probably a couple weeks.
Yep.
for round 2. We're not sure. We've got lots of topics, so we just got to pick one. But probably something similar to this, where we're going to examine a popular movie and look at it.
Go
look
more
at
contemporary next time.
Contemporary, but look at it with some more maybe analytical perspective.
Some Nutty Professor perspective.
Yes. Okay. So I've been Megan.
I've been Emily.
I will see you guys next time.
Run, rabbit, run, rabbit, run, run, run. Run, rabbit, run, rabbit, run, run, run. Bang, 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 bang goes the farmer's gun. Run, rabbit, run, rabbit, run, 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 run. Run, rabbit, run, rabbit, run, run, run.